Well, let's start from the top and dive into the NFL's Flag Football League. The NFL has officially partnered with Tomorrow Sports to build and operate a new professional flag football league for both men and women. The league was announced just a few days ago on March 30th, and it's being positioned as the missing top tier in the sports pathway for youth, high school, college, Olympics, and now pro for flag football. The NFL is clearly trying to capitalize on flag football's surge ahead of the 2028 Olympics. That's what I think. Fanatics just also had the Flag Football Classic, right? So there's a wave of interest that's being surrounded around flag football. I think the NFL is timing this pretty interestingly. But just to give you some more context on kind of the financial situation of this league, the league is backed by all 32 teams in the NFL through 32 Equity, which is the league office's strategic investment arm, and it's operated by Tomorrow Sports. And Tomorrow Sports is the company that's co-founded by Mike McCarley and Tiger Woods.
Rory McIlroy is also involved as well. They're the ones who run TGL.
TGL, that's right, exactly. So you have the name and stamp of approval from the largest governing body in all of football in the world, with a new kind of emerging sports tech-infused sports operator.
Company.
Yeah. Which I think is interesting.
Very interesting. I think it makes sense because Tomorrow Sports had a great relationship with PGA, and that's how they've been able to make TGL such a success. I think you use the same model with the NFL and make sure that professional flag football is something that people can watch. Like, I think that's something that they need to figure out.
Yeah, I agree. And specifically around their finances, they raised a total of $192 million. And
that's a lot of money. So a lot of capital.
So this is how they split it. $32 million came from the league, like I just said, right? And they raised $160 million from outside capital. So the cap table was stacked, like I mentioned, with a bunch of athletes: Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Larry Fitzgerald, Serena Williams, just to name a few. But then it was also stacked on the institutional investor side. So the lead institutional investors reportedly each put in about $15 million. And that list included Ariel Investments Project Level, which we've talked about consistently over the last couple of weeks. Bessemer Venture Partners, which has been a venture fund that's been continually doing investments in sports.
They invested in Unrivaled, I believe. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And Josiah's Blue Pool Capital, Dynasty Equity, Silver Lake, and Sixth Street. And then there was a boatload of venture funds and growth equity funds that also participated in this.
So why do you think these institutional investors are deploying so much capital in flag football out of all sports, right? This is like something that I was seeing on my timeline where I was seeing, like, I used to be an investment banker. I follow some of these FinTwits and they're all like hating on it. Like, why are all these private equity firms that have 20% returns that they need to guarantee for their LPs investing in flag football? Do you have any takes on this? Or
look, like, long term, it'll be hard to tell where flag football is going to go, but the biggest signal is that the NFL league is behind it. The league office is behind it. They're the ones endorsing this and growing the league. I think the way that they're also looking at this is a huge pipeline of youth to pro in this. So you're kind of building, it's not just the league, it's kind of like the infrastructure that comes with this. And I know you have an interesting point on the analogy between this league and League One volleyball.
Yeah. So the way that I see this is, like, you have to look at the actual macro tailwinds around flag football. So one thing this is actually from NFL's press release directly, around 4.1 million youth play flag football in the U.S. alone, which has been a 50% increase since 2020. It's now offered at the high school level in 39 states, so it's considered a varsity sport in a lot of different high schools. They're now building out that infrastructure at the college level. We saw a partnership between the Big 12 and the NFL early on where they were building flag football infrastructure within their schools. Now there's recent reports, it's actually happened this week, where the Big 12 is now considering making women's flag football a varsity sport. So overall,
at the collegiate level.
That's so crazy. You're building out infrastructure from the youth into college, which is a great tailwind for a professional league, because now a lot of families are saying, hey, I want to have my kid, especially girls who are much more interested. I saw a crazy stat actually where with the number of, and this is straight a quote, with the number of young women playing on their high school teams increasing by nearly 60% from 2024 to 2025, straight from NFL's press release again, a lot of young girls are getting involved in flag football, right? And so that's also a major tailwind. And now there's going to be a professional league for them waiting at the top because of this initiative that the NFL and Tomorrow Sports are building. And that's what League One Volleyball did, right?
Yeah.
They rolled up a bunch of volleyball camps, tournaments, events across the U.S.
So you're saying that there's an opportunity at the youth level that flag football is kind of fragmented right now, and that this is an opportunity to either private equity roll it up as a part of this big league and create like a verticalized pipeline, or like how are you like talk me through that?
Yeah, so League One Volleyball is very interesting because they launched the league after they had built the infrastructure. So what they did was they essentially developed the pipeline. So they went and invested in a lot of these different centers, and these are cash flowing machines.
Centers,
right?
as in volleyball arenas,
Volleyball,
like physical volleyball.
yeah, like facilities,
Yep.
right, dedicated for youth athletes, right, and you're developing them as well. Because if you really think about it, right, like some of our high school, for example, didn't have that robust of a volleyball program.
You just
right?
play on the basketball court.
On the basketball
I feel
court.
like most are like
But most
that,
are
though.
like that. But that's why if you're really thinking about it from the collegiate level, like I want to play D1, you would go to a center like this where there's specific coaches
Yep.
that have that expertise to develop youth talent. And so that's what League One Volleyball was focused on at first. Once they built the infrastructure and generated that pipeline, then they're like, hey, it's time to launch a professional league, because it already really existed in the collegiate level. They just needed that next step. And League One Volleyball has been doing a great job. They have a lot of exposure now, and people are interested in buying franchises within the league. I think the NFL could have a similar approach, but kind of the opposite of how League One Volleyball did it. You build out the professional league first, so then it encourages potential youth programs, centers as well. We're seeing this with Unrivaled Sports too. Blitzer and Harris's youth sports arm.
Yep.
They're investing a lot in flag football. I could see the NFL and Tomorrow Sports doing that too, and teaming up with Unrivaled, building out that infrastructure. And I think that's where it really turns into generating returns for a lot of these institutional investors that got involved.
I completely agree here. I think also something that most people are maybe not talking about, and you can kind of like extrapolate this out, maybe we're just getting a little too creative here, is that the football as a whole, American football, I think is at a structural disadvantage than the other big four sports in the U.S.
Why do you think so?
So hockey is an international sport. Like, it's a winter sport. It's played at in a lot of the countries that have that kind of seasonality and kind of weather and climate. It's an Olympic sport already.
Yeah.
Right. Basketball, obviously, basketball is huge, wildly global. Right. And same thing with baseball. Japan is a huge market for baseball.
The World Baseball Classic was an absolute hit.
Huge,
too.
right? Caribbean, there's obviously South America is a huge pipeline, and Central America a huge pipeline for talent into the MLB, right? That's not a problem that baseball and the MLB faces. But American football, on the other hand, yes, there's been some globalization of it, but it's still very closely correlated with the American dynamism, cultural kind of political is not the right word, but with the country itself.
Yeah, I think it is America's sport right now.
It is.
Like,
It is. Right? But it also comes with a bunch of infrastructure. You have helmets, you have pads, you need field goal posts.
Stadiums are just ginormous.
Like
and they're
$100
billion-dollar projects.
Right? 100-yard, like they're huge, right? So I think this is a very interesting way for the NFL to actually become global. Flag football is already in the 2028 Olympics. It's just flags, really, right?
Yeah.
A shorter field and no real infrastructure outside of that. So I think it's really smart and an interesting chess piece that is in the favor, and chess move that's in the favor of the NFL as they're thinking about globalizing here.
What I'm really excited to see is what the international talent's going to look like for flag football. Because if it is really good, that's such a great tailwind for this professional flag football league. One thing that we were talking about is, what if professional flag football league could just have not only games internationally, maybe they have franchises internationally. That would completely change the game. You're now able to build youth infrastructure in other countries as well. I don't know what the flag football, my guess is that your typical Olympic juggernauts, for example, China, I think China is going to be really good at this, right?
You think
I
so?
think a country like Germany is going to be pretty good at this. And then it's like, hey, can we start building out the youth infrastructure there and have the NFL Tomorrow Sports Flag Football League lead the charge?
That's super, super interesting, actually. They haven't announced any exact launch date yet, or the number of teams, or the strategy surrounding all of this. But reports have said it'll be portable, tech forward, and probably a travel type venue model rather than like a traditional city by city rollout. But we'll see. Things could be changing. There seems to be a lot of money and real players backing this. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, we'll keep tabs on just like what the developments happen as it rolls out into varsity sports and colleges. We're going to look into it and just see like how the reactions are. I think a big litmus test was Fanatics Flag Football Classic, which I think was a success given that they literally had like 3-4 weeks to pivot from Riyadh to LA. And I thought it was great.
I mean, they had Speed, they had I Show Speed, Logan Paul. They had like legit influencers in it too that were very competitive. And it looked, if you were watching the highlights, which I watched the highlights on YouTube after, they had legit Fox commentary, right? Greg Olson was on there commentating. Tom Brady was playing, Jalen Hurts, all these NFL athletes, Saquon Barkley. It looked like they were actually trying. It didn't look like, and they were having fun too. It made it was a fun watch. Even though the stadium didn't fill up because of the moving from Riyadh to LA, it was super interesting, I think.
And those are going to be the ambassadors for this new Flag Football League, which is another, good thing that they have.
I agree.